Last September 4th, game one of the South Division Series, the Hillsboro Hops against the Salem Keizer Volcanoes. And it's game number 10 in our list of the top 10 games all time in Hillsboro Hops history.
Catcher setting up inside corner for the fastball. Swung on, hammered to deep left center. On the run is Canario. Going back, he won't get it, and the Hops win it. Here comes English. He will score, and Hillsboro walks it off in the bottom of the ninth inning. 2-1 Hops.
And it was significant because it gave the Hops a 1-game-to-none lead in that first playoff series, a best of 3. It snapped the Hops' 6-game postseason losing streak going back to 2016. And it was significant because the Volcanoes had exactly one base runner the entire game, a Yorlis Rodriguez 4th inning home run. Incredible job by starting pitcher Tyler Holton and reliever Nick Snyder. And we're joined by Barry Enright, the pitching coach of last year's team, had a 12-year playing career, including parts of 4 years in the major leagues. But before we get into the game of last September the 4th, you're at home in Scottsdale, Arizona, not far from the Diamondback spring training facility. But with the quarantine and everything, overall, how's it going for you?
It's been tough. Obviously, right off the bat, it was, we didn't know what was really going on. And, kind of coming home and being able to have a little time with family was nice, even though it was all of a sudden. Now I'm really kind of missing that second family that you kind of instantly have throughout the, baseball season. And loving being home with my kids, obviously with my wife as well. 2 kids obviously do get tough at times at home, as we will joke about. But, I think throughout my whole life, whether it's playing and now coaching, you have that second family in baseball. And you miss that camaraderie. You miss those, clubhouse days. You miss those days in spring training and, having those familiar faces and being in the trenches with the guys. And so that's getting tough right now, kind of just keeping in touch with them, trying to keep their spirits high. And hopefully we'll get some good news soon.
Yeah, people miss the action on the field, but when baseball is taken away from them for something that's happening right now, or they retire, or they're forced out of the game because they can't perform at that high level anymore, it seems to me like they always talk about it's the camaraderie they miss, isn't it?
Definitely. That's something I knew kind of about myself, that I would want to stay in baseball. I was lucky, obviously, to have a Diamondbacks organization that I came up with. A lot of my, ex-coaches are front office now, and Mike Bell and Dan Carlson, who asked me to coach. And to have that opportunity was a great honor, just because you kind of get to stay in that, that camaraderie of that family. And it proved to be obviously an exciting and fun year last year. I got spoiled with some really, really good guys. But just enjoying being in the trenches with the guys. It was a different experience, but it was such a gratifying one to be able to kind of sit back and see the joy that, success and the learning through failure that guys went through, and just be a small part of that and be able to kind of push them to, be their best self and, kind of continuing, hoping to do so.
All right, well, let's look specifically back at that game of last September the 4th. What a job by the starter, Tyler Holton. 6 innings, just the 1 base runner allowed on the solo home run. For a while, it looked like that might be the game. It was 1-0 heading to the bottom of the 8th inning. But I just continued an amazing run for him. And I think, his last 7 outings, he had an ERA of 0.8.
He was a stud all year long. The kind of the part that gets lost as you're talking about is that 1 base runner. I forgot about it, because you're losing 1-0 all game. You're kind of looking to scrap a run across, which we were able to kind of do in that 8th inning, and then, have some fireworks towards the end. But Holton's, I believe, only start that he struggled might have been his second one. I think it was against Salem Keizer, where he went 2+ or 2 1/3 and came out. And after that, there weren't many base runners. There weren't many guys, that had any free passes, and there were a lot of strikeouts. And he was our guy to kind of lead us into that playoffs, and he showed it in game 1. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, you nailed it. Good memory. August 3rd at home against Salem Keizer, gave up 5 runs in 2 innings, and really the only time the guy struggled. So he throws the 6 innings, gives up just the 1 run, the 1 hit, the only base runner.
It's funny because guys might go into that box. You talk about, I know Holton being left-handed a little bit different, but we talk about Greg Maddux, and you talk about guys that changed speeds, locations, had good off-speed pitches. Holton, I don't think went over 91 miles per hour last year. He sat in the high 80s, and he dominated. I mean, he has an unbelievably called Bugs Bunny changeup and a pretty filthy curveball to go along with it. And he really, really has an advanced mind of how to pitch. He comes in and talks with his catcher in between every inning. He understands what he wants to do, what he's done to the previous batters when the lineup turns over, what he wants to do. He really, really makes it easy on a pitching coach. And at a young age, it's pretty impressive.
We're so enamored with velocity these days, and rightfully so. I mean, fewer balls put in play is a good thing for the defense. But it's nice to see that a guy like Holton can still go out there against good hitting and get the job done.
It really is. That changeup's that great neutralizer for him. He'll continue obviously to have to refine as he goes up every level, but because he has such good feel of how to pitch, such good command of his pitches, and obviously such good off-speed pitches, his fastball plays much harder than it actually is. And we talk about stuff nowadays with carry and, vertical break with fastballs, and he has actually pretty good significant numbers with his fastball, although the velocity isn't there. So you add those all together, and he's actually pretty impressive pitcher as well.
Yeah, and typically in a piggyback situation like that, where you've got a guy who's going to work 6 innings and somebody else you hope will work the last 3, you'd want to have a left-hander and then a right-hander, so that it mixes things up. But you had Nick Snyder coming in after him, also a left-hander, but it adds up because they're completely different guys. And Snyder was awesome, 3 shutout innings.
I don't think if I remember correctly, I don't think Snyder gave up a run for us until the last outing.
Yeah.
Which I believe might have been a championship game, and he was impressive. I mean, all year long, he was again a guy that we brought out of the bullpen. We talked about Holton being our stopper as a starter. Snyder was a stopper out of the bullpen for us, even though we got a little bit of a starter length out of him. He kind of just went out there and mowed guys down for 2-3 innings at a time. And that was kind of our plan going into game 1. Like I said, although we had a scare and it was a close one, on the pitching side, they made it very easy for us. I don't remember making a mound visit. I don't think I had to kind of leave my spot. I just kind of sat back and watched these guys work, and it was so impressive. You see it, almost a 7-footer go out there. It looks like another Randy Johnson lookalike, kind of getting on the mound, and he's got an explosive fastball as well. That's very, very sneaky and gets on you, in the low 90s, and guys just miss it. And it's one of those unicorn pitches, and he again showed out for us that game and continued that success from last season.
You talked about earlier about how you were blessed with some fantastic arms this year, and a great draft for the Diamondbacks in 2019. But obviously, you played a huge role as well. It has to be gratifying to you. Going back to the late 1980s, as far back as we have records of the Northwest League, in this specific stat category, other stats we have further back. But for batting average against the last 3 decades, heading into last year, the number 1 figure was 223, and the top 10 were all like 223 to 227. That's a little bit of context. Last year, the Hops batting average against, this is how good your pitching staff was. It shattered that record, 205. How did you guys post such an astonishing number?
We started with guys like Luis Frias and Adrian Del Moral and Danny Olivero and Teneo. And, then we add on with the Nelsons and the Holtons and the Jamesons and the Snyders and the Grammas. We had piggyback guys coming in, and every one of them I felt like threw 92 to 99 and had a power breaking ball. That's going to be pretty good for that league. I think it was my job as we were leaving spring training, and I didn't even know I was having the draft picks yet, that they said, don't screw it up, Barry. This is your audition year 1. And so they joked, leaving that room, they said, you better break all these records with these arms we're sending you. Like I said, I was spoiled. You add in the guys that had career years with, Polancic, who had under a 1 ERA for us, Herrera out of the bullpen, with countless others, guys that were extremely impressive. And I think the biggest enjoyment as a coach over the maturation process and the biggest gratifying moment is when those guys almost don't need you anymore. I've said this to a few guys, is that you start with them. I enjoy being in the trenches with them. I enjoy getting back there and catching their side work with no gear on, throwing 97 and just feeling like I'm a little nut job, back there. But I think they enjoy that, and it kind of creates trust with them. Through that process, towards the end of it, my enjoyment is being able to sit back and not have to make that mound visit, because I could see them turn and make that adjustment themselves. I think that's the biggest compliment to a coach, is when they no longer need you. Maybe on the mental side of the game here and there, but when they can be out there and make those adjustments, which those guys ended up doing throughout the year, it was pretty cool to see, especially carry through those playoffs and see even Gramus and Nelson in those final games. It was impressive all the way through, and it was that's where I got my gratification, just seeing those smiles on those faces.
Yeah, it was a joy to watch, to be sure. Your first year as a pitching coach, and it wasn't often that the pitching staff struggled, but was there ever a time where, and you just pitched in AA and AAA the previous year, 2018, was there ever a time where you're like, dang it, man, give me the ball. I'll go out there and get these guys out?
There's two times. The time where we walked the house, and I think I gave up, double-digit runs in Salem. And I felt like anything that we did or brought, any guy that we brought in, it was walk the first batter and then give up a double or a homer. I didn't feel like they wanted the ball that day. And then there was a time in, I believe it was Everett, and we had a very similar game, and guys came out of the bullpen, and, not to name names, we had a guy that, pitched out of the windup when there was a guy in first, and we had a lot of walks. I want to say we had almost double-digit walks, if not double-digit walks that day, and it just wasn't us. And I felt like the preparation was kind of lacking. And, that's a reflection of our coaching staff as well. And sometimes I felt like, hey, we gave them a lot of slack. They deserve it. They're men, but also coming out of, being, I guess, an older player into a younger coach, I have to remember at times that, these guys are young, and they're going to have a framework at times. You can't just let the leash go and they'll be okay. And so having to pull that back in from time to time is not what I love to do. I don't love to, get up them and have to, kind of raise my voice with them all the time. But we had a few of those moments, and we snapped right back in. I think that's obviously a testament to them, a little wake-up call, but also the talent that's in that room. There's some guys that, would go back out there, whether it's Holden, like we talked about, our stopper, that would kind of just come out and say, hey, we're not losing this game. And then everyone would kind of follow suit. And like I said, pretty impressive arms, and they got right back on track.
Yeah, boy, they sure did. There weren't many of those aberrations at all last season. By the way, I love that you're rocking the Sonia Doris hat right now during this interview.
It was so lucky last year. It was our go-to. Had to put it back on.
Well, hey, we really appreciate your time. I'm going to miss you this year. I've had a chance to work with some great pitching coaches with the Hops, and Doug Drabeck and Bird, Mike Parrott, and you're right there on that list, man. It has been it was a blast last year, and
Thank you for that.
Wish you well, and would love to see you get that big league pitching coach job here within the next few years.
I really appreciate that. It was a pleasure last year. I'm just sad we didn't get to golf. So hopefully at some point we can, get that round in, whether it's out in Arizona or out in Oregon. But I really enjoyed last year. It was very, very special for me. Like I said, I got spoiled with some amazing people, amazing players, but also an amazing organization. You guys that just, just takes us fully into their hearts and in as a family. And I couldn't have asked for more. So it was a special year for me. My family felt this exact same way. And I definitely hope that, we're all together and fighting through this to obviously get back to baseball soon.
Yep. I hope that you're back on the field soon. And we'll tee it up at some point, and you'll always be part of the Hops family.
Thank you very much, Rich.